Yes, we have got the Improved Production Racing Association of South Australia on track. Right alongside me, a regular in the Improved Production Racing around Australia, Cam Van Duncan. Of course, you're up from pit lane and you're going to give us all of the expert insight, being with all your current racing experience in Improved Production.
I wish I was more regular, Darren, to be honest with you, but I spend far too much time on the...
Try prunes, they'll keep you regular.
Yeah, exactly. This is a wonderful category. The IPRA SA, so the South Australian group, must be commended for this. As we look at some of the social media out there, Molly Rally. I really appreciate seeing Molly's talents out there in these cars. I don't think people understand the challenge she faces coming from dirt, the Australian Rally Championship, and trying to make a way in circuit racing through TCR at a very top level. It's like rolling off the AFL field and trying to go and take on the world in soccer. It just doesn't really compute. So what she's doing is actually a wonderful effort.
RESEPCT, I think that's how you spell it. And,
well, it's her reputation on the line too.
So yeah, true. And Subaru as well. They're throwing it all out. I commend what Molly's doing. So hashtag The Bend, hashtag SN19 is what we're doing with the Shannons Nationals for all of that social media content. Good inside the car here. Really nothing like what you'd see at the wheel of a rally car though, is it? It's all straight line, deliberate movements, hitting those millimetre perfect points of the track.
And again, we can see CJC car photography. That's a great shot there, isn't it? Look at some of the shots that they've been able to secure. And I'm glad you enjoyed your day at the Bend. As you heard from Rustling before, this is a beautiful facility. I had a couple of the event or the crew that work here on the ground at the Bend ask what we all really think of it, because they're so close to it. Sometimes you think it's great, but you don't know whether everyone else feels it is as good. And I can tell you, Darren, and I can't speak on your behalf, but on my behalf, I think this place is world class. It's fantastic.
It's absolutely jewel in the crown of the South Australian motorsport, that's for sure, and sits right up there with Mount Panorama and the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit as far as racetracks are concerned. Cam, you've been here in November for the Nationals. What did you think about the track from racing, the black stuff in between the walls?
Well, this category is going to give you a wonderful perspective of this track. This category in particular, Darren, the cars really struggle to handle at the best of times, and they're not great over these long flowing corners. So you'll see many of these drivers fighting throughout the course of this race on a track that is one of the best in the country, and straight out of the box you put it into the same breath as Mount Panorama, as you mentioned before. But we get set. Andy Sarandis got the job done in the first race. And what a start for him again. Demaric goes with him now in terms of outright lap speed. He's going to have to get to the front early. Andy Sarandis goes to cover off. Andy, another driver that's part of the Australian race, or the Australian Rally Championships. Look at that lock up on the front, the chatter for Demaric down into turn one. He just pulls it up, and Sarandis leads through turn 2 and 3.
That's horrible there. That's a caster issue on that 808 there, the way those wheels were wobbling around there. That's a massive caster problem. So that's not going to be good over the 9-lap journey here. The way they were just wobbling under brakes, that is absolutely scary for Max Demaric at the wheel of that car. We get the Datsun Sunny starting to challenge here with Carl Ward. He's found a little bit more pace in the rest time between the race this morning, and the 63 RX-7 also weighing in there as well.
That corner there in particular, the hairpin, it catches you out. It's so fast on entry, and it just tightens more than you expect, and then you've got to get across to the left, and at all times the track's trying to throw you off the track. The car's trying to do the same thing. So hats off to all of these drivers. Cook in particular, look at him start to range up on the back of Demaric, and that little RX-7 would be one of the more tricky vehicles to drive around here. You've got to keep your revs up in the RX-7. You really need to keep your foot into the accelerator, and this track has a lot of off-camber corners, so that just struggles to get the car turned in and hold and take a set. So great job by the RX-7 driver to be up into 4th place at the moment.
Adam Trimmer in the 86 there, just in the background. You get the feeling that 86 is being developed along. Scott Cook, we've got to mention, just an update on his journey throughout this week, and he's already back up to 3 in this race, but Scott had problems with a bonnet pin, and that's the last thing you want to do, is be driving along and have a blue bonnet just go smack up on your screen, because that can be absolutely horrendous result. But this mid-pack battle, the 81 RX-7 of Palmer there, he's got an absolute plethora of cars joining up behind him. So Jason Palmer in the RX-7 has got his mirrors full. This is the race leaders. It's Sarandis, Max Demerick, then Scott Cook, and this is the battle pack chasing for, well, just off the podium, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th.
And this is the bit when you're in a rotor that you dread, this main straight. Everything else eats you up. You're sitting there, you grab the magazine, and you wait for them all to pass you as we see Ward get through on Palmer down into turn 1. Palmer really struggling to get in on the apexes, and Darren, I have a feeling that's because he's trying to get the accelerator underfoot, which is just pushing the nose away, really struggling to get in on the corner. Ward got through on him though.
Carl Ward in the number 79. He qualified 28th in the Nationals in the over 2 litre class. So a guy that was well inside the National 30, and he's just driven past the 81 of Palmer and driving away now. Datsun Sunny. What a wild piece of kit. Certainly Datsun 1600s dominated this class back in the very early 90s. The likes of Phil Morris at the wheel, being chased down by the likes of Ken Douglas in the Nationals and Andy Brown over in Victoria. Look at this battle.
This bit of track's really cool, Darren, because what you've done, you've come through the hairpin, which tightened on exit. You've got massive understeer on the front end. You've got to get across to the left to open up the right-hander, but it opens on exit. So you're going over a blind corner, just trying to keep your foot buried, hoping the car will hold on to the other side. As the 86 now, hounding the RX-7. That's modern technology, able to get through these corners versus the later model car in the RX-7.
It's the type of differential setup in the RX-7, just doesn't let it roll over quite as much as what we're seeing the independent on the 86, albeit the Datsun is the same type of rear end. It's a solid axle setup. The 86 definitely, it's about 38 years more of modern technology that he's employing in the red car. That car right there, car number 88. But certainly the amount of racing development in improved production that has gone into RX-7. Still the most winning chassis in road reg, club cars, improved production type racing, and the 86 goes through. So Trimmer drags a spot back. Adam Trimmer, dead short electrical. He goes through and takes position 5 on the road. Here's position 2. Gee, that hammer on the front of that car, that is horrible.
Well, look at Cook. He's run very wide on the exit there. So pushing a little hard, trying to get up onto the rear of Demerick. And unfortunately, runs wide on the exit of turn 1. That's dropped him back a fair way.
Have a look at this under brakes, this green car. This is absolutely horrible. Wow, that is... I'm actually not sure. I don't think that's even casted the way that's
it reminds me
there. That'll be tearing your thumbs off.
It reminds me of the front end setup on many Formula Vs back in the day. They used to chatter away, especially at Calder Park.
Rip the steering wheel out of your hand as they're doing it too. Wow, that's horrible.
Big shout out to everyone that's raced a Formula V that knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Gee, the Formula Vs grab your attention when you hit a bump. Those wheels are just outside the front of your eyesight.
Also, huge shout out, Darren, to all of the Improved Production Racing Association members around the country that are tuned in. I know they've been watching on.
Great category, really good category to get into. If you like to engineer a car, if you like to scratch your head and sort out a problem, great category to do it in. There is a tight set of rules. And I said yesterday, Cam, that this set of rules changes every 10 years, whether it needs to or not. So it's an exceptionally stable set of rules.
Something's happened to Andy Sarandis, out in the lead. Hopefully that's just a timing issue, but he's dropped down to 3rd place. He set fastest of all to the first sector. We'll find out shortly as we watch the battle with the RX-7. He's through again, but this is Andy Sarandis. Is he still leading? We'll keep an eye out.
He's still out in front. He's being...
Is it a timing issue?
Yeah, he's still out in front. It's a timing issue there because Max Demerick's behind him. So that's our race leader, and he's doing it very, very nicely indeed. So there may be he's back up on top. There's a timing glitch there.
Sorry to all of Andy's friends that got worried there. When you see him drop rapidly down the timing order, you start to wonder as you see Cook back on it again, chasing down Demerick. But you mentioned the amount of work that goes in. Even the associations around the country when they get together as well. So it's a wonderful culture, a wonderful group of people. They jag regularly. Over 100 competitors at their nationals every year, no matter where they go, and they go round the country.
Jag over 150.
Well, they've got Tasmania coming up this year as well.
So that'll be a good journey down there to see how many they get down there to Baskerville. Great event. Phillip Island a couple of years ago, I think it was 167 competitors or something like that at the Nationals. It was a massive field, full grids of over 2 litre and under 2 litre cars. Of course, it's a class championship as well. It's built into various different engine capacity classes. So that's pretty easy to understand.
That's really done to give any of us a chance against Ray Hislop, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ray. I know he'll be watching on.
Multiple Nationals winner. Good to have Ray at the track whenever we go improve production racing. Gives you something to chase.
Geez, they're getting close to him now, though. I even mentioned it when we saw it Bathurst for improved production as part of the 6 hour at Easter. Matt Cherry out of WA, he's coming along very nicely.
Well, there you go. Improved Production's getting on some really big platforms at the Adelaide 500, getting on the 6 hour at Bathurst, here as part of the Shannons Nationals at this round, and then at Queensland. We might even get up the old Triple Challenge that ran down the East Coast about 15 years ago.
You know what? I don't know how he does it, but Bruce Henley, who'll definitely be watching, he gets on the entry list of every single one. The rest of us have got to go into a ballot, yet he seems to be entry number one everywhere we go.
Do you know how he does it? He races in all the local series and he's just part of the furniture. G'day to Bruce.
He's certainly watching on
Runs
as well.
a big motorsport program, absolutely. Have a look at this. Cook fighting back after having bonnet pin issues earlier on this morning. This is the battle for 5th, 6th and 7th on the road. Three vastly different cars. Here comes the front wheel drive 168 of Stephen Wan. He's travelled all the way from New South Wales. Got a couple of interstaters. David Walden. And unfortunately, David hasn't fronted up for this race. Had an issue earlier in the red RX3. One of the real stalwarts around the country in his RX3 is Dave Walden. Has done a lot of racing. Unfortunately, not taking any further part in this one. But have a look at the Civic. These have started to come on. And Cam, as that story you did before this race with Jordan Cox, he was the first one to give this car massive success.
Well, it'd been around, hadn't it? And I didn't realise how early on in his career it was for Jordan Cox. We saw him come to the fore, and there's a lot of people in the paddock here right now going, who is he, where's he come from? We've all, through the state series, through improved production, known who he was and see him rise. And that moment, as you said, in the front-wheel drive Civic, now finds its home with Steve Zorkas, and Stephen's tuning in today as well out of Victoria. And Jordan Cox still giving him a bit of a hand with that car to this day, but it's given him a real leg up moving into TCR. And I was just talking to Dave Wall about the benefit he's got of working with Jordan Cox, and he said, the reason I brought Jordan into the program is because of what he did in a Honda Civic improved production car.
With front-wheel drive experience there as well. In fact, when they announced TCR, one of my only ever entries on social media, Cam, was to say, someone needs to get Jordan Cox to drive in one of these cars, because the way he has driven a front-wheel drive, he's a natural to it. And we've heard Garth Tander talking about how he's still struggling to adjust. 3 weekends in, he's still struggling to adjust to the front-wheel drive aspect.
It's not just the front-wheel. It's not just the front-wheel drive though, Darren. It's also the level and calibre of racing and the style of cars these are. I mentioned before that the car tries to throw you off the track more often than not. You're really turning, and they say improved production. Essentially, it's like limited sports sedans to a certain extent when you think about it. These cars are engineered so far beyond what they were ever intended to actually be used for. And the drivers that have learnt to drive these cars at the very front of any grid have got a great deal of ability and experience. The only thing when I spoke to Jordan, it wasn't in that interview, spoke to him about where does he feel his driving has been slightly hampered by not doing open wheelers. He said it was just about the precision and the technical aspect of it, probably the feedback loop. He said that's the only thing he really missed. He said improved production, as we see Cook now have a look on Demeyrick down into turn 1. He said racecraft, learning to drive a vehicle that moves around on you, all came as a result of improved production.
These things definitely move around. We're seeing it right there. This car, this green car of Max's, is certainly moving around with its front tyres just wobbling around underneath him. There we go. Power slide out through turn 4. Sets himself up, but the problem is that Sylvia behind him is behaving absolutely beautifully. Have a look how poised how Cook has got that car, driving it nicely up to the inside of the corner, the RX3. Look at that, the leaf springs fighting every single wheel input. He's trying to get through this car as Cook sets him behind him.
We've still got 3.5 laps to go. We'll stay with this battle over position number 2. Cook ranging up on Demeyrick. Cook has the faster car in outright lap time, but it wasn't by much. It was 3/10 at the end of qualifying, or just thereabouts, 2.5 tenths. So the cars are relatively evenly matched, and as you can see, the handling for Cook is the strength and the benefit over Demeyrick, but Demeyrick putting the car in all of the right spots. Now, Darren, we talked about development of drivers. There's been some interesting names that have come through this category over the years. Dave Wall raced in improved production. Warren Luff raced in improved production. Adam Macro, there's a name that did some improved production racing. Leanne Tander, part of TCR. She was a state champion in New South Wales. Don't think she ever got the Nationals. I think she
Don't think
tried.
so
I don't
either,
think she got the Nationals.
Tried once, but didn't quite get there. But some other big names, if you dig deep in the annals of history, Ken Douglas, Phil Morris heading up now, Motec. Huge names of
You can't go
Australian
past,
motorsport.
remember Wayne Wakefield in the 808.
Wayne Wakefield, one of the most spectacular race car drivers in not only improved production, and like Jordan Cox, made his name initially in improved production. In fact, I think when Wayne Wakefield was doing it, it was called club cars. So the journey for this category has been a road registered racing association in the 80s, club cars all through the 90s, and improved production since the early 2000s. And here we go again. The turbocharged Nissan draws alongside the Mazda.
He's got it. He's on the inside. Is he able to pull it up? We've seen him try this move before and run wide on the exit of one. I think he's got it done now. Good job from Cook. Up into second. Demeyrick will try and stay with him though. See if he can pressure him into a mistake with, like that, on the exit. Cook gets loose, Darren. You earn your dollars.
You certainly do there, and that's where the Aspect tyre, these Yokohamas are a very durable and grippy tyre, but they've been asked just to do a little bit more. Here we go. Here's the setup. The big, long front straight here. It's like pushing a brick through the air having that 808. That's really quite difficult. It's got the sloping back, but the front is very flat. You can actually see the frontal area, the height of the Nissan is a lot lower there as well, although it's got the decent old wing on it. He gets down the inside and gets the job done. Here we've got position 4 in the Datsun Sunny going through there of Ward, and then we've got Palmer. This is Trimmer, and this battle continues on. This is for 6th and 7th with Stephen Wan. He wants to go back to New South Wales with more than just a 7th place in race number 2. So watch out. There's the very different aspect of a rear-wheel drive 86 versus a front-wheel drive Civic. Have a look how close those tyres go up to the guards in that Civic. They've got the widest possible tyre that they can possibly get under those guards, and even then they've rolled them out just a little bit. You can do that in these rules.
Tyres are gone on the 86. This is the opportunity now. The Civic looking for the right spot. You just saw how wide on the exit Trimmer ran then. And Wan, good tight line through the hairpin. Up over the top now. Just tuck into a nice spot. Make him use those tyres. The 86 is not the lightest car out there. And the Civic will just tuck in and continue to pressure. There's plenty of racing left here. Picks up a bit of curb. You can see that Trimmer can't get in on the apex.
Scott Cook currently running 2nd in this race, ran 4th at the last state round here at Tailem Bend. Have a look at that front wheel drive, lifting the rear wheel off the ground, a good foot of air underneath it. One of the funniest things you can ever experience when you're following a car like that is when they start lifting wheels up in the air like that and flapping them around. Here's this little Mazda not lying down. The Weeks and Macklin, a couple of real estate agents represented here. Taplin on the Scott Cook car, Weeks and Macklin on the 808. Impulse Boutique there on the number 26 of Scott Cook, and they are a long way away now. 9 seconds to Andy Sarandis.
After all these years, you know better than to dig too deep into some of the sponsors on improved production cars.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
let's
we had
continue
Daily Planet for a while. So.
On the last lap of this race. It looks like we might go one early here as Andy Sarandis has dominated this race from the outset. He's 9 seconds up the road from this battle here between Cook and Demeyrick.
Going through there on Coppola, who was just slowing doing there a little bit, so that's a shame. This guy now, number 26, as I said, got 4th in the last race of the last state rounds here at the Bend. Doing a good job. Number of names in the Improved Production South Australia Association not here this weekend. It's basically a trophy race. It's not actually part of the domestic series here, so it's they're battling it out for the trophies here today. And at the moment, Sarandis has got himself a very, very healthy lead with setting himself up for a 2nd win here today. That Mitsubishi Evo 8, which you would suggest is part of the new breed of improved production cars. And in fact, in this race, we've got a really good smattering of the older type of cars and how successful they were in the RX-3s and the RX-7 rotaries, and the Datsun Sunny mixed up in there, and then the newer generation, the Civics, the Evos, the Silvias. And there is the checkered flag. And it's going to go to Andy Sarandis, and that is a dominant victory in that Evo 8. And here comes Scott Cook to the line. Bonnet pins that have remained in place for this one, and he gets to the line in P2. And a fair dinkum grouse battle there for Max Demeyrick getting that 808 Mazda home to the line.
And for those of you playing along at home, yes, that was grouse that Darren issued, and it is 2019 these days. As Andy Sarandis, that was a great drive. He loves a win. You can see him waving to everybody out there. And look at this. The Civic through as it picks up the right rear wheel. Oh, he's getting loose. It's not over yet. This has been a great battle we've followed. Wan through on Trimmer. It was over 6th place.
It's what it's always about. And I can tell you, when there were 60 cars front up for the Nationals, it was like this all the way down through the field. Every time you go to a state round, big fields actually entered for Sandown next weekend. Get out to Sandown for the next round of the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championship.
And improved production also on the agenda when we get up to Queensland Raceway with the Shannons Nationals. So a big shout out to Drew Lawrence and all the guys up there from IPRA Queensland. We're coming your way shortly, so make sure you turn out in force.
You're going to drag the RX-7 up for that one?
They actually tried to get me to do it, but I've gutsed it for the new car at the moment. So we'll talk about that another day, Darren, as the Civic got through on the 86. I would have loved to, though. Look at the official results for race 2 for the Improved Production Racing Association of South Australia. As I said before, Darren, you've mentioned it a number of times this weekend. Well done. They're a wonderful organisation, IPRA SA, and great job for getting the cars out on board, and I'm glad we saw a couple of RX-7s there as well.
You're glad. There was an RX-3 out here. Unfortunately, Dave Walden didn't front up for this one, so I'd say that that's terminal.
Do you reckon next time we can call, we can put the old driver database stats up for you, Darren, up on screen?
There was no such thing as databases back then, Cameron. Andrew Sarandis wins in the Vape Boss Mitsubishi Evo 8. Scott Cook for Impulse Boutique in the Nissan Silvia. Max Demarik in the Mazda. It says RX-3, but it's a single headlight front in the 808. Carl Ward, Jason Palmer, Stephen Wan, Adam Trimmer, Keith Wong, Robert Kilmartin and Emmanuel Paliaris in the RX-7 rounds out the 10.